Just shy of 110 miles that I've put on my boosted board version 2. So I wanted to come and talk to all of you about how it's held up and my experiences with the boosted board so far. Now I know there's a newer version that's came out. I bought the first version of the boosted board not too long after it came out, had that for probably a good year and a half or maybe even longer. And then when the version 2 came out, I sold my other one and bought this one because I wanted that extended battery. I weigh about 230 pounds, so I wanted that extended battery so I can go a little bit further. Of course, it did take almost a full year for that extended battery to come in, but once it did, I got it on my board, and now I can take advantage of those longer ride times. So now that I have over 100 miles on my board, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but considering I only live about a mile, maybe not even a mile away from my office, and the only other place that I really ride this to is the grocery store and places that are within a mile or two of my house, that's a lot of rides that it takes to get to 110 miles on a boosted board. Now there have been a couple of longer rides that I've went on. I had to get my truck serviced way on the other side of town, and so I rode it back from that, and that was about a 14-mile ride. I think that was probably one of the longer rides that I've ever gone on the boosted board. That's a long ride, especially if you're riding around in town where the roads are maybe a little bumpy. I mean, they're fine, most of them, but they're a little bumpy, little lifts in the sidewalk and stuff like that, and sometimes you're on asphalt in the road. But that definitely is rough on the feet. It's not that my feet, I couldn't stand being on my feet that long or whatever. It's just all the vibration and everything like that is a lot over that period of time. But I have ridden it around town a lot, and I live in Modesto, California, which I don't know if you've ever been here or familiar with it, but the roads are, I'd say, average. There are some roads that are really nice and super smooth, and I definitely appreciate those roads. And then there are other roads that probably haven't been conditioned or paved or anything like that in a good 15 years. A lot of those roads are maybe in neighborhoods and stuff like that, which some of them are around the area that I go from my office to home. So there's a lot of patches in the road and stuff like that. We have a lot of big trees, big sycamore trees and stuff in Modesto, and they planted those maybe a little too close to the sidewalks, and so all the sidewalks have been lifted up by roots and whatnot. So it's not the smoothest place to ride a boosted board, but it's definitely not too bad. So for me, getting around on the board is extremely easy. I used to skateboard a lot back in high school. I was never really that good. I had some friends that were, and we used to skate around a lot. So I have the basics as far as balance and stuff like that goes. But as I've gotten older, I feel like I've lost some of that. I'm 38 years old. I definitely don't try to push myself as hard as I used to because I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to fall. The recuperation time is much longer these days, and I just don't like getting hurt. I mean, who does, really? But I'm here to talk just about how the boosted board holds up. A lot of people put out videos on, their boosted board after they've ridden it for like 5 miles, and they're like, oh, how great it is. But I haven't seen a lot of videos of people coming back talking about how it's held up. So I wanted to kind of just go down the board and talk about it briefly, and then kind of give some closing thoughts on the board. So we will start at the front, where the very first damage that I got to my board which was with the wheel on the front. And this was my own fault. I didn't take a corner as tightly as I should, and I was coming around and just caught my wheel on the edge of some brick, and it tore the wheel a little bit. Now, this happened probably, I don't know, a month after I got the boosted board, so I probably didn't even have 20 miles on the board, and that happened. So I was a little frustrated, but it hasn't caused any problems with me yet. Now, you're probably looking at my board so far and thinking, wow, that's a dirty board. Now, I clean it about every 20 miles, maybe less depending on the conditions of the road and what I happen to roll through. The roads here definitely are not that clean, as you can see by the wheel. So the front of the trucks have also held up really well, minimal scratches. I go up and down curbs and stuff like that. I drive off of curbs. I don't go up the big curbs that's impossible on something like this, unless you do something like a grab and pull it up. But I do go up little lifts in the sidewalk, that are a good inch, and so there are opportunities for things to get scratched up. And trucks definitely take the take the most damage on a skateboard. If you've ever skated before, you probably know that. So the threads on the truck here, there's a little bit of damage on that because, you know, I've gone up some stuff and ran into some stuff on accident. Luckily, I've never crashed. I haven't fallen off the board really hard or hurt myself at all. But nonetheless, you know, this is what you can expect. So the wheels are a little dirty. You can see in there in the bearings, they get dirty. Wheels collect a lot of dust and stuff from the ground, and these get dirty. So what I've been using to clean my board, and I'll talk about that as I go down it, is electronics cleaner, because electronics cleaner is going to be the safest thing to use around any of the electronics that are on your board. Now, I'm not using it to like douse my board. I definitely don't recommend cleaning your board with like running water, like running your hose over it or anything like that, because these electronics are not completely sealed. They are pretty darn well sealed, and I got a good look at that when I did the upgrade to the extended battery pack. I was able to see under the battery and see how well everything was sealed, and it really made me feel a little bit better even about the board. But the electronics go down through a channel through the board, the wiring does, and I just don't want fluids getting in there, because I could imagine, you know, too much moisture inside the board is going to make it delaminate. I mean, they already have done stuff to the board to run the wiring and stuff. I want to make sure that stays intact as much as possible. So I put the extended battery on when I finally got it, which was almost a year later after it was promised, but I got it, and it's been great. I love the extended range battery because I get that much more distance out of it being a heavier guy. So moving down the board, I've got a couple of stickers, and we're moving to the back of the board. You can see we've got the controller, we've got the rear truck here with the dual motors. It's a little dirty. This is literally from my last ride. Usually I would clean up something like that because I don't want it to get sticky or stuck to my board, but sometimes you're going to get some stuff kicked up on your board. I try to avoid running through any types of fluids or anything like that that may be on the ground, but you can't avoid all of it. So on the back of the board, you can see we've got a little bit of damage on the motor guards, and then there's the pulley guards here that have a little bit of damage. Those are replaceable. You can buy new ones. Their job is to protect the pulleys and everything from the damage that's going to come from running over little rocks and stuff like that. You can see little dings in the paint here on the motors themselves. That's from rocks that just get kicked up. I mean, you're going down the road, those things are going to be there. It's hard to avoid them. And one of the nice things about a boosted board is it does a better job at rolling through that stuff than smaller skateboards do. And part of that is because it is propelling you forward. When you're pushing with your foot like you are on a typical skateboard, when you're not pushing, you're always slowing down. And so when you hit something, it has no forward momentum other than just, you know, whatever momentum you gave it last to roll over that object, whatever it is, a little crack in the road, a little rock or something like that. So a boosted board can definitely go over stuff a lot better. I don't recommend going off-roading or taking a challenge to go through that next gravel pit that you see, but it definitely can take some of that stuff. And that's one of the things that I really like about skating on this as opposed to one of my other boards that's non-propelled. So you can see we've got the two pulleys here, and they are a little dirty, but they've held up pretty well. The only thing that I'm a little worried about is this noise, which I've had for quite a while. And even when I clean off the pulleys and kind of clean everything out, I still have that noise. I'm not 100% sure what it is. I think it just must have something to do with the motor. It's kind of made a variation of that noise since I first ran it at the beginning. It makes a little bit of noise, but it has gotten louder. So the pulleys are still in pretty decent condition. I'm not 100% sure how often you're supposed to replace them, but I feel like probably within the next 50 miles I will replace them. The last thing that I want is for a pulley to come apart when I'm going 18 to 20 miles per hour down the road, because one of those pulleys, if I'm lucky, will shoot out the back and eject like nothing, or it will get wadded up and take me down with it. I really don't want that to happen. And I haven't heard anybody talk about a pulley breaking or anything like that. My experience with pulleys like this on things like go-karts and motorcycles and whatnot is that I'm probably not going to have a problem there. The likelihood of a pulley snapping on me is slim to none. I think it would fall off before it would do that, and I don't see how it would fall off unless this guard was completely removed. But there are things that can happen. I could get a good chip in that guard and it could catch on the pulley and cause problems, but all of these things could happen. I mean, anything really can happen when you're on something that's moving and has moving parts. So a little bit of damage here, but I can replace these guards. That's definitely not a problem. I see them on the Boosted Board website. I just haven't ordered any yet, and I think that these ones have a lot of life left in them. Now the wheels also, you know, though I never really see anybody with dirty wheels like this is how your wheel's gonna look. Most of the people that I've seen on social media and whatnot seem to have nice clean wheels. You can of course clean these. You can take maybe like a little file and just kind of run them over the top and knock the dirt layer off, or maybe a little bit of sandpaper, really fine sandpaper, and just go over them. And it'll make your wheels look nice again. I used to do that with skateboards. So I'm definitely, after this video, going to be using some electronics cleaner to clean this up. I may even give you a little bit of B-roll for that, because another thing that I don't see much of is content where people are talking about how to clean your boosted board and how to care for it. It's much cooler to vlog and do all that stuff than it is to talk about maintenance. But with something like this that we're going down the road at, 15, 20 miles per hour on, maintenance is important to take care of the board. Now the back of the board has really little to no damage, considering I stand the board up all the time. I drag the board when I pull it up and carry it, and the board is really held up. So with that said, I mean, there really isn't much else left to say about the board. We could take a look at the top of the grip tape, which also has held up really well. There are a few little markings along the sides just from, my foot basically, but the grip tape has held up really well, and I haven't had any issues there. Of course, you can always re-grip a board. It's extremely easy to re-grip a board. Maybe going with the two different grips that they have here might be a little bit of a challenge, but it's really easy to re-grip a board. And I know you can order new grip tape from Boosted themselves. So with that said, I highly recommend a Boosted board, and I'm not fanboying over the Boosted board. There are a lot of great rideables out there. That's definitely a huge market right now. But what I do recommend is that you go with a reputable brand. Don't buy, a Chinese knockoff or something like that, because the controller that you are using and the way that it pairs and connects, and the security there and everything that's involved with connecting between these two devices is extremely important. I would not trade that for a few $100s. Though the Boosted board is a little bit overpriced in my opinion, you can't put a price on your safety. And when it comes to riding down the road on something that's moving that fast, you want to make sure that you are riding on something that was well thought out, that was not rushed to market, that was well tested, and maybe even is, at least designed, if not maybe partially built in the US. I think it's very smart to take that into consideration because of your safety. So not to say that things built in the US are better than anywhere else. It's just in moving down the road on something going that fast, want to make sure that I'm not trading out my life for something that may be a few $100s cheaper. So I've got some links down in the description below for you. If you're interested in a Boosted board, clicking on that link definitely helps keep our channel alive here. If you have any thoughts or any tips, maybe you have something that you do with your board to care for it, definitely share that down in the comment section below. I love learning from all of you as well when you share in the comments, so make sure to do that. So with that said, thanks so much for checking out this video on Boosted board 100 plus miles later. I just wanted to talk about that and kind of share my experiences so far. Look forward to seeing what all of you have to say down in the comment section, and I hope to see you back here in the next video.